In honor of Godzilla vs. Kong, let's open the 2005 version of King Kong Peter Jackson. We open on Depression Era, New York, though this time around we get more details of the time period with this version sees Andale, played by Naomi Watts. She's a Volleyball star who is let go along with the rest of her troupe, though she has aspirations of starting to play with by Jack Driscoll, more on him in a bit later. Elsewhere, we're introduced to Carl Denham, played by Jack Black, while at the time and since mostly associated with comedic roles. In this film, he's actually based performance off what was in the years of his life, all the narcissism and alcoholism went with it. He blows himself with his cohorts. Skull Island has every possible way of slipping through his enemy's fingers, much to the plight of his Abe Preston, played by Colin Hanks, younger brother of Tom Hanks. By way of narrowly saving Anne from stealing fruit and buying her dinner, Dunn was able to cast Anne in the film and is able to close the deal by saying Driscoll is writing the script. In this film, rather than brusque adventure the original, he's a writer who's not used to adventuring, played by Adrian Brody. The role of adventurer this time is played by Bruce Baxter, played by Kyle Chandler, who knew he would be involved with a different version of Colin 16 years after this film. That night, everyone sets sail on the venture, captained by Englehorn, played by Thomas Kretschmann, his first mate Ben Hayes, played by Evan Park. There's also a cabin boy named Jimmy, played by Jimmy Bell, stowed away on the ship and just kind of stuck around there. He also lifted a copy of Her Dungeons from the library, and this was made some that story if you added kaiju to it. Driscoll's roped along and doing like a space, is supposed to bunk in a cage with animals. I really like the Easter egg of the Sumatran rat monkey, paying homage to Jackson's cult horror film Brain Dead, aka Dead Alive. Yes, long before he spent $207 million on this film, a couple budgets on the Lord of the Rings trilogy, he had a low budget horror film. Driscoll also discovers some of the cast of chloroform on board, taking the place of gas bombs from the original film. So, before we see the monsters, this one actually takes a good amount of time to set up the characters we're spending time with. There's supporting cast members including Circus as Lumpy, and John Sumner as Herb, Denham's cameraman. That also has quite the impressive crew of its own, with a team of editor Jamie Selkirk, cinematographer Andrew Lesney, and production designer Grant Major doing particularly impressive work on this film. We'll talk more about this in the course of this review. The blend of both CGI and practical special effects does a great job of capturing both the period setting and the more fantastical nature of Skull Island. As Anne bonds with Jack, the ship eventually reaches destination Skull Island. This time around, the natives are portrayed by multiple different backgrounds, giving makeup to keep consistent pigmentation. Part of it is paying homage to the 1933 original, and other films didn't know any better at that time, but most of it makes clear this take is about as real as the Dementors or Urukai are. The youngest seems less interested in Kyle's Nestle bar more than human flesh. They just try to escape, and the natives take Anne to offer a tribute to their deity, the Alpha Skull Island Kong. This time around, he's rendered in CGI, motion captured by Andy Serkis, played by successful Charles Gold in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. There's just so many advances in how apes behave and learn to since the original film. The crew goes on the island to find Anne and get their film within 12 hours, perhaps more. One fact I really like of this film is music by James Newton Howard, a composer's work I've enjoyed a very long time. Everyone discovers there are dinosaurs on the island, and even as they try to film the footage, the nearly voiced stampede of patasaurs. Super pretty spectacular, all things considered, though Herb does end up eaten by a tyrannosaur. Some crew, Baxter included, head back to the ship, while others keep looking for Anne. The search continues. Anne bonds with Colin over Varviolette, and the CG's held up incredibly well over time, where textures of Colin's fur and how even face expressions can be read. So contemplating a retrospective upon the Apes film series, I do have plenty to say about his role in the movie trilogy should that come to fruition. Ben is killed by Colin, leading to an action scene in the jungle on a dead tree, before Colin tosses said tree and everyone inside into a chasm. Said chasm does contain at least favorite part of the film, the giant insects. I may not be afraid of bugs like some other people, but the specific ones envelop Lumpy and the giant crickets attack everyone are nasty. I went to the bathroom as part of the theater, especially apparently giant crickets are called Wadas, by the namesake of visual effects company Wada. Englehorn arrives just to crew to save them, remarking, "That's the thing about cockroaches. No matter how many times you flush them down the toilet, they always crawl back up the drain." However, this is contrasted with my favorite part in the film, Colin's fight with the Tyrannosaurs. The way it's framed, how they incorporate the advances in pain toys in 1933, and yes, even how they include Colin winning the fight by breaking the dinosaur's jaw, playing with it just like in the original film. So the camera and the film got wrecked in the chasm, and Dylan decides to go with Plan B, capture Colin bring back to New York. Jack finds Anne juggling for Colin, and since Watts apparently isn't the best juggler, they use CGI for the rocks when actually pantomime them on camera. Dosing Kong with a chloroform, they have the beast brought back to New York to be shown off as eighth wonder of the world. Even Denham's former investors are impressed, and Anne is now dancing new ads with new possibilities. Driscoll is still writing plays, but he wonders if there's something missing. Collins introduces the pilot, but rather than the camouflage like in the original film, this time Collins outraged that the woman presented to him is not the one he fell in love with. This leads into the escape from the theater and rampage in 1933 Times Square. I really love how this finale plays out. The filmmaker is definitely sad to depict a New York that no longer exists, and the monsters never existed at all, and they have by and large succeeded. As Kong rampages looking for Anne, Driscoll commandeers a taxi to confront him in the square. Kong finds Anne. That's actually a very sweet little scene of them skating up his overhang of Rockefeller Plaza. Yet, as a military attacks Kong, now we come to the film's finale in the Empire State Building. The climactic duel with the airplanes, a little bit here. Turns out the pilot and gunner leading the charge are both Jackson and famed makeup artist Rick Baker, respectively. I'm still not doing the 1976 version, I'm not that desperate for content. Kong's mortally wounded and falls to the ground as Jack reunites with Anne. Then delivers the line was beauty kill the beast to close out the film. And while the filmmakers originally wanted to fade later the line, Ray sadly died before production began in 2003, so now was given to them as in the original film. As we're on the eve of Godzilla vs. Kong, much like other films I've looked at that feature tall characters, this one's a testament to enduring legacy, appeal of Kong overall. But who's directing the story or how, Kong's a character that's endured for decades, and this film's no exception. Made $280 million in the US and $562 million worldwide on its $207 million budget, making it among the most successful films of 2005, another $100 million on DVD, is my favorite version of the story. Looks about the character study of a fantastic kaiju film, and glad to be able to look at it. One final rating is Screen House 4. Next time will be my look at Godzilla vs. Kong. See you soon.